All right, welcome in everybody. We are in the building. I see there's already a couple people in the mix. What's up, Happy Van Winkle and Frobo1337? Of course, Vadron holding it down. We are on a live, no delay Twitch stream. I have my friend Nico here, who is a huge contributor, and I'll let him really just tell you what it's all about and what he's done and what his involvement is. But Nico, great to have you from Raise Your Edge. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah,
What's up?
absolutely, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us what you do, your involvement with Raise Your Edge, and we will. I'll let you kind of introduce yourself, and then we'll go from there, and we'll take on and go through the course. We got a sub already, man. Thank you, JJ Corrado. Full year subscription. Sorry, man. I don't know how used to are to Twitch, but we're gonna have a couple interruptions. But it's good, man. It's good when we got people in the mix interacting and subscribing. So apologize for some interruptions, but we'll let you go from here.
Yeah, cool. That's great. Yeah, I did start. So let me just start with like the poker career, if you want to call it like this, right? So I did start like anyone did start, or most of us did start in like 2004, 2005 with the Moneymaker effect. Played with some friends. Actually, we played 5-card draw first, and then we switched to no limit hold'em. And I think out of the group, I was the only one who was a little bit more competitive in this game, and I started to play online. Of course, I did everything wrong, which you can do possibly wrong. I had no bankroll management. Of course, I tilted a lot, and was a long way to the first time I felt really comfortable. I also played like everything. So I think I started with cash game at Party Poker. Then I switched after cash game didn't satisfy me to sit and goes. After sit and goes, I played limit because a friend of mine played limit as well. It took several years until I found those 180 sit and goes on Poker Stars, which really satisfied me because I won like the second. And of course, if you win a tournament, this feels really, really great. And did go from there to the tournament poker. Then switched to live and played a little bit live. And in 2014, by the way, in the live surrounding at that times, I did meet my two coaches, Heal the World and Blue Tom 89. And did start playing online again 2014. And Blue Tom especially did do a lot of coaching with me. Really remember the first hand history I reviewed with him because he just berated me for like every play I did, which was obviously great. It was totally all right. I thought I would play good, and I quickly realized that I was playing not very good. And it took me I think a year to get like all the stuff he did teach me. Then we went for some live trips. And there was like the second breaking point, so in the evolvement. I think I had a day 3 or something, and usually we didn't talk about hands in breaks and after a long day because we just want to chill and hang out. But I had one hand which I wanted to discuss with him. After a hand, Rainer said, well, we still think very different about poker, which was like super shocking for me because I thought I have now understand. I'm now there, and it was not the case. He did tell me, you can approach this differently with GDO, and you still don't understand like why you want to exploit with a certain part of your range. And then I started to do GDO, and after doing GTO, finally, I think I did understand what he mean that day. And now I'm actually really confident in all the tournament poker play. I'm also playing short deck cash game right now, which I also really enjoy. And so this is more or less the poker career. But my main focus is still on like normal work. So I'm like one of the normal guys who was just super fortunate to have those very clever minds behind me who can tell me a lot, but I'm of course doing other stuff as well. So I'm doing my PhD right now and planning to work afterwards. And poker was like always a very competitive hobby, so I always wanted to be like with the best when it comes to at least of the understanding of the game. And of course, when you play tournament poker, you have to put in the volume, and unfortunately, there's no time, not that much time for the volume, which I probably want to play, but I just can't. Yeah.
Right. That's yeah, no, it is one of those things. It just become same thing. I have my son now. I know you said I'm sorry, you're 6 month old. You said, or 5? How many months? Or
my son is now
or almost a year.
It's a 19 month old. So he's
19.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
19.
So yeah, that's the age where they're moving a lot. You can't really.
They're moving fast, and still like from the speech side. He has some words, right? But the connected sentences are not there yet, and so you always have to guess what he wants. And he just says he wants something, then he's already running, right? And you're running after him, still not knowing what he wants, and yeah, you're on your feet all the time. But that's cool. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, listen, I really do appreciate you being here. I see we already have 140 people just popped in. Haven't been on Twitch for a bit. I was just in Vegas playing some cash. Had really good couple 200, 400 sessions. Of course, after the live cash update with Mariano 5, we did a Twitch stream, and that went really well. I thought people got a lot of info out of it, and here we are looking at the bounty portion of the Raise Your Edge course. So why don't you talk a little bit about how this course came about, what your particular involvement is on this. I know this is sort of your specialty, right? This isn't just like an instructor. This is essentially your course. Or could you maybe fill everyone in on what particularly this means to you, this course, and what work you've done? And then we're going to kind of go through. I have it pulled up here. I don't know if you have on the side, but I think a really good format is to kind of walk through the course. Then at the end, maybe we can talk about a few hands from some stuff that I did, maybe talk about some calculations. I know you mentioned that there was a Windows update, you had some stuff pulled up that crashed, but again, we have plenty to talk about, so I'm not too worried about it, and we can review a couple hands. But yeah, just let us know a little bit about what you've done with this course, how long it took, and what you're most proud of, and what areas you think for people, because now bounties are so prevalent, the knockouts on the major sites, it's a very common format. So it's really, I think people have a big opportunity to take their game to another level by understanding some of the math and understanding some of the principles. So maybe you could talk a little about what this course has been for you, and how long it took you to work on it, and how it all came about.
Yeah, probably let me start with why we actually did the course. So I was doing a lot of content with Ben, and we had some very in-depth discussion about how chaos should work, and that actually we are still more or less guessing what is the correct answer and how we want to approach the bounties in-game. And then he said, why are you not doing a course? I mean, you can do the math, so do the course. At least do the research, and if we get some results, then cool. And if there is no cool results coming out of the research, then this is just how science in general goes, right? And then I started this in January, I think, 2018, January 2018. And it took me 6 months to do the alpha version of the course. So doing all the calculations and doing the online tool, doing a lot of preparation stuff. Also, like, I was not very experienced with doing videos when I started doing this course, right? And I was very surprised how long it takes to do a video with all the cutting, and you're talking everything in like multiple times until it sounds like good, right? And this was surprising. And after the 6 months, I'm still working on it. I mean, now the update on multi-way ins is coming finally, and I'm planning something more. So this course is not done yet. I'm doing still a lot of stuff.
Awesome. I want to give a couple shout outs. Jordan knows 10. We got Yacht Fuel in the house, man. Appreciate all you guys stopping in. Please ask questions along the way. We will try to answer some of those. Tim Thompson 99. A lot of heroes. Brick Poker. Constantine, hello guys. Good to see you. And we have a very special treat with Nico here, and we are going to what's your name stand for? The W3C.RAY. What's that about? It's a cool name. It looks scary. Like, you're one of those guys, if I saw you at the table, I would think you're a pro. That name looks intimidating to me. Like some names I can tell if they're a fun player. You look like a crusher. What's that mean? What does your actual handle mean? Nico. Uh-oh.
Oh, okay. I didn't. I'm new to this Twitch stuff, right? So I didn't really get that this question was to me. So sorry. Can you repeat
No,
the question
no
again?
worries, man. I was asking like your handle, your name,
Yeah.
W3C.RAY. It looks
Yeah.
scary to me. It looks like you know what you're doing, like there's thought in it. Like, like I said, I can generally tell like a fun player or not. Like I would put you in the top 1%. Your name just seems powerful. What does it mean?
It actually comes from the old Warcraft 3 times. So of course I'm a little bit older, so probably some of your viewers are not knowing Warcraft 3 anymore, but it was a pretty cool strategy game. And at that times I was very young and a man, so I played a lot of computer. And like everything I do, I'm just very competitive. And I was not at the very top of the game. I couldn't put in the hours that like some Korean guys did do. But yeah, we went pretty high, at least at the ESL one, and we didn't went high in the ESL one. We were in the ESL one, right at the very bottom, and get crushed by all the good teams. But yeah, this is coming from Warcraft 3.
Worldcraft 3. Okay, I get it. I like it. I respect it. All right. Well, listen. Let me just preface this by saying I have the Raise Your Edge course. Like I've actually had the KO series just happen on Party Poker. I'm sure you played some of that or a lot of it.
I did.
Yeah,
I did actually.
I had some pretty great results, and as much as I would love to say, I just dove into the bounty course and studied every day and crushed, and that was a big part of it. Like I have not gone through all of the course. Just want to be transparent. It's something that I work on, I've looked at, but I haven't done it 100%. I did have some great results. Final table to 5K event. I got I think I won a 530 tournament with 398 people for a big score. Was great. I final tabled 2 6-max KO series with like 1,100 and 1,700 people at the same time. So I had some fun runs, and it was a really cool time, and also just bringing light that there's so many bounty and KO tournaments, and also I felt uncomfortable in numerous spots. So I think it's one of those things where this is like the more you do, the more you practice, the more you see these things, they just come second nature. And that's what I want to go through with you today. I just kind of want to walk through the course, and then we can do some examples later. But let's kind of just run through and maybe you could say which portions you believe are more important, or if you just think going in order is the way to do it. Obviously, that probably makes the most sense. But why don't we just start with kind of go through the course here and introduction, and just sort of talk about what happens in the introduction, and maybe also which ones you think are like mandatory. If there's some spots you could maybe suggest to jump around to, or some more important than others. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
So probably I just talk in general how I did set up the course, and you can just jump to the correct parts. The course overall is split, I would say, in 4 parts. And the first part is, of course, the theory part. In the theory part, I was really focusing on breaking down the math. So not only like how you want to, for example, recalculate a bounty in chips, add this to the pot, do something like this, right? So this is one way of how to deal with a bounty in-game. You can do other ways, which are also shown in the course. Part 1 is the theory. And the theory, I think, broken down correctly is when you can see, for example, how the programs are actually calculating the results. So if HRC or ICMizer is showing a certain number, then you should understand what this number means and where this number is coming from. So opening a black box and understanding of what is inside of the black box is, for me, very mandatory. When you did understand everything, you can say, I don't care about this anymore. I'm totally cool with this, right? Then you can close it again, and then you can just say, okay, I accept. I did understand everything, and now I can just use the program. So this was like the first part, which I did. I did the theory on chaos, and also redid the theory on ICM so that you can really understand how ICM works. Especially, so I always compare like keep PKO to ICM in a certain way, because ICM always adds a certain percentage, right, which you need when you need to call off an all-in, and the KO is like the counterpart that you always take some percentage of equity needed away when you have a KO involved, right? And for the ICM part, you're also like in any finite table in a spot or in certain spots where you're not really sure what is the correct answer for your holding. And I personally believe that when you have seen how ICM works, that you are not guessing anymore. So for most of the final table spots I've seen now, I think I'm able to just call the bottom combination, which I want to call, right? Probably I'm one combination off. This might happen, right? But I'm never punting like in an insane way, or I'm not super way too tight on the other way around.
Let me interrupt you for a second and just ask. So right here, I'm on the just past introduction guideline through the content. I mean, there's some pretty complicated looking stuff throughout this, and I think it's important for people to remember that that's kind of, this is what they're showing you in this course, how it works, and you don't need to, it can be intimidating, but what are some tools like the ICMizer, what are some things that would be really beneficial for viewers, or if you get this program, what are kind of mandatory things you need on the side to be able to do and have for tools?
One calculation tool is like totally sufficient and only for multi-way all-in situations. So for the heads-up all-in situations, so someone is jamming for a button, you're sitting in a big blind, you're wondering how much equity you need, right? We have an online calculation tool, so this is calculating everything for you. But for multi-way all-ins, when you want to study those, and those are happening very often in PKOs because people have a high incentive to go all in, and call all-ins especially, then you need, for example, HRC. So one of those programs, either ICMizer or HRC, is a good program. I personally use HRC. I just like the whole GUI and how the program works. But yeah, this is just my personal taste.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let's jump right here into the PKO FT, and thank you so much, Chinchilla Scott, for that Twitch Prime sub. Appreciate you and appreciate that a lot. The PKO final table versus non-KO final table. So what's this? Talk to us a little bit about what this means.
So on a final table, you have, usually when you are in a non-KO final table, this is like very clear how it's played, right? So you have a payout distribution, and 9-handed, every player has a certain probability of finishing in a certain place, and then you can calculate on how much dollars you win when you're calling an all-in, or how much dollars you lose when you're calling an all-in. And in a PKO, this is different because you don't have only the prize pool for the regular prize pool, right? But you have also the bounty prize pool, where the bounties are in. And you can also win dollars directly in the hand when you bust a player. And those two different, let's say, payout modes in two different tournaments will lead to, for example, that the chip leader can do whatever he wants. So not only that he can do whatever he wants in a non-KO case, but for example, the chip leader can just open like 33% range more out of MP when you are 9-handed in a PKO, because he can raise call wider, he can bluff forward jam wider, he can just put way more pressure on players because he cannot lose that many dollars, because he has always the probability to win something in an all-in. Right? So this is one of the mandatory differences. Also, like very natural outcome is that for the short stack on a PKO final table, actually compared to a final table, nothing changes because he cannot win any bounties, right? And for the mid stacks, as long as they are not playing against the big stack, there's also less ICM pressure. So overall, the PKO final table has less ICM pressure, so you can play wider ranges, you can call wider pre-flop, you can also call down wider post-flop depending on the ranges, and the more big stacks that fold before the mid stacks can actually play more, so apply more pressure against other mid stacks, for example. So this is all caused by the fact that you have an additional prize pool, the bounty prize pool, which has no ICM pressure.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So then we drop down here. I mean, this is how many total hours of content does it come out to roughly in this course? And if you were to do the whole course start to finish, do you know roughly or no? I mean,
so since we have not only the videos, so I think the videos are around about 12, 13 hours. We did update the time. I don't actually remember how much it is, but I think it's like 12, 13 hours of videos. Then we have the ranges. So you want to study, of course, the ranges and study them against non-KO ranges. So do understand like the logic, the difference between how you want to construct a range in a KO scenario when you're, for example, short stack and everyone is covering you, compared to a non-KO case where nobody is hunting your stack as much because you cannot win a bounty in a non-KO. So we have this. Then we have the stat in the course. We also need some time to just use it in game to get it into your multi-tabling abilities. Let's call it like that. So this is what is inside of the course.
Okay.
So overall, I don't know. It always depends on how fast you're soaking up content, right? No, everyone is learning differently and in a different speed. So I cannot really say how long it might take to go through the course and to understand everything. I mean, some people did learn GTO in a half a year. For me personally, to know like most of the spots, it took 1.5 years. It just depended on the players, right?
Absolutely. And would you say, have you noticed a big shift from the regular format? Like, I mean, obviously knockouts are becoming more prevalent. The KO series, I mean, on Party Poker, for example, just KOs, like 30 million in guarantees. Like, what are you noticing? Is it still shifting to more KOs, or do you think it's sort of, have we peaked where the balance is where it is? But I mean, it's definitely prevalent. I mean, there's always, every day, there's like good options for knockout tournaments. I mean, is this something like how important do you think this is to have in your repertoire to play, to understand this stuff? Because it does seem like online has shifted a lot to have this format.
Yeah, it did definitely shift. And I cannot say if it's shifting even more to this side, but from the perspective of, let's say, Party Poker, it's pretty good to have a lot of KO tournaments. Players, of course, love KO tournaments because you can win dollars directly if you bust a player. So this is a lot of fun, right? It also lowers, at least in your head, probably the variance of the tournament. So if you're playing a 109, you say, okay, on average, I probably just win $50 by KOs anyways, right? Then you have a higher incentive to play probably higher stakes because it's a KO format. And I think overall, I'm probably repeating myself, but I think overall, KOs are more fun for most of the people, including myself. So I personally enjoy playing KOs way more than playing regular tournaments. And so I think they are here to stay, and probably they will increase even more by doing the Sunday Million PKO, for example.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Definitely. It's starting, it really is. It seems to me that it just, more and more I notice they're coming in. So let's talk a little bit about the money bubble and how that works. This is I would say this is extremely important, money bubbles in poker and tournaments, and how does this work with KOs? Just give me a quick little tip or something with the money bubble ICM and KOs.
So in general, the money bubble play by itself doesn't change as much compared to a non-KO case. Like it also doesn't change as much in a final table case, at least for, let's say, the average stack, right? So the big stack, of course, can apply a lot of pressure. The short stack has to be tight. And for the mid stacks, you have a little bit of shift in the ranges you can play. So you can play definitely a little bit more at the money bubble when you're covering the player. And what is really often forgotten in all the calculations for the money bubble, which I did include there, is that you have a certain probability by just folding that you're making the money. And in PKOs, you can just call an all in, have like 2 BBs left, and those 2 BBs might be sufficient to just get ITM anyways, right? So you have an even higher incentive to call.
You're saying that why? Because of the frequency of collisions at other tables,
correct,
leading up to it.
Correct.
Because I have noticed that was one thing. I was in a couple of higher buy-in tournaments like the 1K, 2Ks, and there was a few times where I was pretty short, but like I just felt it did feel a little different because it was just like you realize the guys are colliding and making aggressive maneuvers. So I ended up making the money a couple times very short, and it seems like people are less. I guess that's the reason, right? It's just there's more all-ins, and more.
Yeah, there are just more all-ins in the PKO case, definitely. And so you have as a mid stack, if you do cover the other mid stack, even higher incentive if the bounty is worth it, right? To go for it. at the bubble because more all-ins are happening and you are more or less guaranteed if you have some chips left to make the money anyways, right? So the bubble pressure is not as high as in a non-KO tournament because again you can win dollars directly if you bust someone.
Right. That makes.
And I did do some calculations there. And, yeah.
That makes a ton of sense. Okay. So PKO ICM. How does this differ from the ICM part? The PKO ICM.
Yeah, I don't know how familiar the audience is with like the whole concept of ICM, but let me probably try to break this down like very easily, right? So in the ICM case, you're always looking for how much is the probability of finishing first, second, third. Let's say it's a turn or it's a sit and go where your first 3 places are paid, right? And when you do the calculation, you end up with the solution that it's always worse to win chips compared to losing chips, right? So you always need a little bit of additional equity. And now when you're looking at the PKO case, since you can win dollars directly because you're participating on another prize pool, the bounty prize pool, this changes. So the needed equity, even in the ICM scenario, mustn't be bigger than the equity which you have in a non-ICM scenario. The needed equity can be even lower. That's the difference.
Super, super interesting. It's crazy. It's crazy how, I mean, like when I'm looking here at the screen, the math looks so intense. It looks so crazy. I mean, it's definitely over my head, but I think that's one of the cool things about this is you don't necessarily have to do all the math or understand it, but once you start seeing examples and you start understanding, when you're looking at these $55, the Hunt 109s, 215s, you start seeing situations, you start looking at it. I mean, you're not asked to plug in and do this. It looks like Einstein level calculations. It looks intimidating.
It's actually like it's not super complicated. Of course, those are the theory videos which you're showing, right? So the theory videos, as I wanted to say, are of course containing the theory, and they are backed up with some examples. But we have like a very, very big practice part, and the practice part cares about the how to use the theory, right? So we are not using the calculation by hand for every hand in this course. Of course, it doesn't make sense. It's not applicable in game, right?
Right.
Those theory videos should give you the logic. So
right.
you look those videos, you watch those videos, and you get the logic, and then you see in the practice videos, okay, this makes a lot of sense. They are doing this and that because of, right? This is what you should get out of the theory videos.
Okay.
And doing the calculations there, it's not that important. But for me personally, it's important to have it in there so that everyone who is interested in how it works just can follow. Right? You can do everything by hand, just by watching the videos, and you will have a logical result. And you see, okay, yeah, this is true. This is working. Right? This was important for me personally. Not that I'm just saying, this and that, and this is the result, and no one is knowing where it's coming from. Yeah.
Okay, that's I just think just make sure people look at it. It could be scary to sort of steer away when you start seeing this stuff. It looks like it's super, super high tech, which it is, of course, but that's not the goal. Isn't to make you memorize how to do these type of formulas and have to do all the work. The work has sort of been done. It has been done, and it gives you a way to understand it kind of clearly and simplistically with doing some practice. So just looking again here at the PKO Part 1, PKO Part 2. I mean, again, just talking about it. Is there in this Part 2, for example, I just see like the opening scene example. I'm sure, I don't know if you have up the stream on the side or if you remember, but just maybe talk a little bit about the example of 100 players, and it says like $50 buy-in plus $50 knockout in the prize pool. So if there's 100 players, there's a $5,000 prize pool. The bounty prize pool is also $5,000, and then it shows you.
Yeah, I remember the example. So the question is in this particular layer there out of the PowerPoint presentation. The question is if the bounty value is static throughout the tournament, right? So if you want to do I recalculate the bounty value in chips and add this to the pot method, like I call it, okay? Yeah. then the question is, if you have a certain number, let's say it's a 1/4 or 1/3 or whatever, right? And you take this chip value, does this change throughout the tournament? Because if players are busted, then money is taken out of the prize pool, right? So you have the same amount of chips inside of the tournaments. Those chips are not going away, but money is getting less and less because players are busted out, and dollars are getting in the pockets of the players who did bust out those players, right? And the simple answer is, of course, it's not static. So the value of the bounty is changing inside of the tournament if you want to do the chip recalculation for the bounty. So if you're starting for, let's say, if it's a 5,000 chip tournament and you did start with a value of the bounty of, let's say, 1,500 chips at the very start, then this value will change to 1,700, 1,800, 2,000, whatever. It will change inside of the tournament. And this little slide there is the start of where I show how it changes.
Right. Okay. And again, guys, there's, you can see these. It's cool because you kind of scroll through and get examples. And again, for me personally, how my mind works, I think a lot of people are similar, where it's a very visual, right? You don't need to memorize it all, but you can sort of get a good idea how it works, and then you start seeing some examples, and then you start being able to apply those when you're playing, and something looks very similar or familiar. You might be within. You don't have to memorize everything, but have just a general idea. It can go a long way. Some things too. I think it depends on the buy-ins people are playing, but obviously, like, there's some of these spots that come up where just one time or one final table, you can talk about a huge decision or a huge bit of money that you want to be comfortable. Obviously results oriented, but it's not always going to fall the right way. But you want to make sure that you're comfortable in these spots and are able to make good decisions when you do get to a big situation and have some more information and not just be guessing. So that's really cool. Looks like
that's the goal,
yes.
Right? That's the goal. You should not be guessing in a spot which you haven't simmed yet.
Right. And I see, yeah, no, for sure. And we've all been there, all of us. I think anyone would be lying if they said that that's not true, where you've been. I think I mentioned an example in the 5K against Patrick Leonard where I flatted queens, got 3-bet squeezed and then 4-bet jammed, and I ended up talking myself into a fold, and results oriented, whatever. I ended up winning, but really it was just a pretty bad play, and I would end up winning 2 huge bounties in the biggest tournament on the Sunday. So that was pretty frustrating. Just kind of like spots like that where now I wouldn't let that situation happen again, and I just kind of like, just certain things where these things add up fast, and like what, not only like a hand and a bounty, but it could end up the trajectory of that tournament. You don't get so many opportunities for these type of situations. So yeah, it's good. It's always important to be honest with yourself and do the work and find spots where you're uncomfortable. Just looking here at the pre-all-in reviews, practice 1. This looks like this is again your visual tool to calculate even easier instead of using Excel sheets. This is sort of an example. I don't know if is there anything that stands out in these reviews? Practice 1, practice 2.
Personally, I think yeah. So I did all the practice pre-all-in videos with Ben, and not only that, we did like the spots, and we did discuss on how we would approach those spots. So for example, here we had pocket jacks. We did 3-bet. Big blind did 4-bet in the pocket jacks scenario. So we had like a possible 4-way in scenario. The guys did fold, and we did talk about how it will change. That he will always fold in a non-KO case the jacks, and how he would approach the jacks in a PKO case. And he gives like a lot of additional information. So not only we are talking about like super PKO related stuff in those hands. Of course, they are all PKO hands, and we are doing like all of our best to analyze those hands. But he also gives like a lot of additional information, like how he does wages, edges, how we want to exploit people by doing this and that. And I think it's very, very valuable what Ben did bring to the course here with all the discussions we had.
Right. Okay. Yes, for sure. I see there's some pretty cool. There's several examples there. There's also adapting 3-betting ranges. Could you maybe talk a bit about what that looks like and what type of things to think about? Because I know for one thing that really stuck home with me was, I see Tim Thompson 99 in the chat. What's up, man? And Jeremy, Jeremy is in the building. What's up? Good to see everybody. We one of the things, I mean, there was one example I went over with Ben, and it was like a hand where I 3-bet at the final table pretty wide, like king 5 suited, and then ended up calling off, a spot. And really, a point that Ben made was that as you get deeper in the tournament, especially final table, that's where, you're not incentivized to, the further you get, the less bounty hunting kind of mentality you generally want to have. I mean, can you talk a little bit about adapting 3-betting ranges, but also how that makes sense and why that is?
Okay, yeah, let me probably come to the second point first, so why this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Very, very simple first answer. If you look at how much of the regular prize pool is left when you've reached the final table, and how much of the bounty prize pool is left when you have reached the final table, of course, this is like very dependent on how many players did enter the tournament at the very first place. But let's take like a very simple example, like the Bounty Builder 109 or the Bounty Builder 530. At Sundays, where like 1,000 players start or 2,000 players start, you still have like the majority of the regular prize pool left when you are reaching the final table. There's a lot of money distributed out by the payout structure. And from the bounty prize pool, there's not so much left anymore. So the ratio usually is like 4-1 or even 5-1, depending on how much bounties, how much bigger bounties did bust out on the final 2 tables. So 5 times or 4 times more regular prize pool is left compared to the bounty prize pool. So stacks have an enormous value, right? And when you go all in, you put this stack value into the middle. So your probability of finishing first, second, third, if there are no edges, right? And all for like, let's say, mediocre bounty or the middle-ish bounty. And this is the reason why deeper in the tournament, bounties are less and less valuable compared to stack sizes. Bounty are actually worth more and more the deeper you go into the tournament, but stacks are getting worth even more than the bounties.
Right.
And we have created a concept here inside of the course, which takes exactly those 2 informations. How many start stacks the player has, and how many bounties he has on his head. And if you have those 2 numbers, you have always those 2 numbers because you can see the table, right? You can make a very clear answer. You can get a very fast, very clear answer on how big the influence of the bounty is. So how much equity you take away from the equity given by the odds. So you can decide, okay, am I calling here my queen 10 suited? Am I not calling here my queen 10 suited? Everything is based on the ratio between stack size and bounties. And stacks are enormously big at the final table. There are a lot of starting stacks in those stack sizes, right? And additionally, there's a lot of money distributed out at the final table from the regular prize pool. So all this together leads to, for example, 9-handed at the final table. Ranges are actually, when you call off and all in, mid-stack against mid-stack, and of course we are covering him because we can win this bounty, ranges are nearly the same.
Right. Okay.
At the final table. So you have like probably 1/2 combo more in a calling range, which just means you can probably call 10s instead of only call jacks plus and ace king suited. Right, so this might be the difference at the final table. There are of course other spots where a very big stack against a very short stack, where you would like probably call 15% at the final table non-KOKs, and you're calling any 2. This is also happening at the bounty final table. So it's like very dependent, of course, which situations you are facing. But in general, Ben is totally right when he says bounty hunting late in the tournament is definitely not mandatory.
Right. Yeah, I think there was one spot where I just remember vividly. It was a tournament and I was deep and made kind of punty play, uncharacteristic of me as well. And I think it was just a situation where I'm looking to be a little more aggressive and find spots, but it's just like not understanding the right move or the right situation to do it, and I ended up kind of punting off in a bounty tournament at the final table and ran into a big hand, and then ended up getting, just something that was just totally a punt, which whatever. So it's just like really trying to understand when to do stuff like that, when not to, and why is super important. And that ended up costing me, but a valuable lesson. I think, let's see. So we're talking about 3-betting late position again. Okay. I saw another question just came in that's kind of interesting. Someone asked Lation saying, I'm late to the party. Have they talked about people who ISO jam over short stacks for like 60 bigs with
Not
weak
yet.
hands? So let's talk a little bit about that. That's a good question. Interesting. You definitely see, I think that's part of the reason why it's so fun in these things, because people make these sort of errant plays or what seem to be crazy plays, which sometimes I'm sure they are and sometimes they're justified. Really depends on the stacks behind you and the size of the bounty. But you definitely see some crazy, massive jams on like a 7, 8, 5 blind, 4 blind all in. You see a guy with like ace 7 off shoving 60 blinds when there's guys with 40, 50 blinds but in their path for the bounties. Can you talk a little about situations where people are making big mistake in this regard and also why sometimes it might be right? And what would be an example of each?
Let me probably just.
It's a broadcast for me. I ask you like 10 things at once, and then I think you can handle it, but I'll try to slow down. I get excited, man. I get excited.
Let me start with one general sentence, and then I give you like a very a clear example. So I think one of the very common leaks of players at the PKO tournament at the very start of the tournament, early levels, is they are way too tight. They are undervaluing the value of the bounty. Now I'll give you an example of a hand which I did play and I did review because I was wondering if I was right. There was I think it was in the 530 MP reg did open and a 10 big blind stack did jam directly behind him. So MP1 did open, MP2 did jam 10 big blinds. And 10 big blinds was like 1/20th of a starting stack or so not very much. And he had a start bounty. And everyone did fold to me in the big blind, and I had king deuce suited, and the opener had 120 big blinds. And I did cover him by like 5 big blinds or so. And the question was if I can jam king deuce suited in this spot. And I did jam in game in king deuce suited. Open raiser did fold, and I think I lost the hand. But the question was if you can jam king deuce suited in this spot. And it's always dependent on how many players you are covering, how many bounties are involved, and how you especially perceive the open raiser in this scenario. Because the open raiser has a high incentive of open raising wider range than usually because he has a short stack behind him, right? So he wants to open raise call against the short stack a lot of the times. And if you pick up on that, this was a very good reg. So I thought, okay, you probably is just open raising like 50-60% range out of MP because he just wants to raise call against the short stack and can, with his very big stack, just 4-bet bluff a lot against like click 3-bets and so on. And I did decide to just increase my jamming range. Therefore, I'm like, I would always jam like king 5 suited, right? And I just broke it down to like any suited king. And when I did do the simulation, it was actually really close with king 2 suited, and king 3 suited was always in. So yeah, this is not like crazy stuff which is happening, but always dependent on how much you have to risk for how much you can win. And if you in like the perfect scenario only risking like 10 BB, which is like no dollar value at all because like 1/20th of a starting stack to win a bounty, then your range is just skyrocketing to any 2. And when you have additional fold equity because your opponent's range is so wide, then even better. Makes you jam even more. And those scenarios are happening in the PKOs even when you're deeper stacked very, very fast. Those one short stack is open jamming, and all of a sudden like 3 other people are jamming, right? And this is a very dicey spot. So usually how it usually goes, right? Of course, it's dependent on the stats of the first caller of the jam. But let's say a 10 BB stack is jamming, has a very, very good bounty to stack ratio. Okay, let's say he has 3 bounties in one starting stack. So very great bounty to stack ratio. Then a 30 BB stack directly behind him is jamming. How you perceive this player? Well, this player can be pretty wide, right? He can ISO jam pretty wide. Then another player is jamming. Let's say on the button we are sitting at the big blind. Another player is jamming 25 BB. And there is where it becomes very, very, very difficult and very interesting on how you expect the player on the button, which cannot win the bounty of the first jammer, right? Only can win the bounty of the short stack, how his range looks like. And I would personally say his range is usually super strong.
Right.
And then you're sitting in the big blind calling off your king 5 suited. It's just devastating. It's horrible. It's just not good. Let's change the situation to the button covers the first jammer against the short stack by 1 BB. Everything is changing. You're covering everyone. You're calling king 5 suited.
Right.
So just tiny little things, especially in how probable it is that I win a side pot. When I win the side pot, I win a bounty, right? So side pots are very important in those PKO scenarios, way more important than in non-KO scenarios, because you have no additional benefit of going all in, especially in very, very big pots, right? You want to keep your tournament life alive in non-KO tournaments and PKO tournaments. The tournament life is not as valuable as in a non-KO tournament, because you have always high incentive to call off all-ins.
Right. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So I hope this answers the question like a little bit. Why people are jamming 60 BB on a 10 BB open jam, and you can construct a very, very good range for this, right? A range which makes a lot of sense. For example, you don't want to get in the spot with like deuces to sixes. You just don't want to call, because a lot of people can overcall behind you, those 10 BBs, right? Then you're sitting there with your low pocket pair in a multi-way pot, and it's not worth anything unless you flop a set, right? So you have a high incentive, for example, to jam small pairs. You also have a high incentive to jam suited ace-x, which has a lot of equity against the first in jammer, and the equity drops down a lot the more and more multi-way you go, because you have reverse implieds against overcallers and so on. So you can construct a range which makes a lot of sense in this kind of scenarios where you're jamming 60, 70, 80 big blinds.
Wow. All right. That's pretty cool. We just got a 20 pack from Tim Thompson 99. I actually don't know how to mute it, and I don't know how, because we're going to get this going off for 20 in a row, which is a good problem to have, but it's a little distracting. Tim Thompson 99, thank you so much, man. Raise Your Edge legend in the chat. How long have you known Tim Thompson 99?
Actually, since I did start with Raise Your Edge. Before, I didn't know Tim Thompson 99 did exist, but afterwards, I'm very happy that I met Tim Thompson 99. Very cool guy.
Yeah, I've heard. I know he's a legend, man. He's one of the legends on the thing. I'm trying to see Shruva in the house. What's going on, man? Thank you guys for the positive energy today. It's coming in hot. I'm trying to see if I can mute this. Sorry. Hold on 1 second. Let's see if I can get a. You hear it? You hear it going off? Can you hear that playing? Nico, can you hear that going? That music?
No, I cannot hear the music. Actually, it doesn't matter.
Because it's. Well, that's all right. We're gonna listen to a 20 pack of subs going, so it's okay. It's a little distracting to me. If it doesn't bother you, then we'll just let it run, guys. Thank you for that. And guys, use your emotes if you got them. Let's keep this going. This is fun. I'm learning stuff as well. And like I said, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna front and say I have not done the entire course, which is a little embarrassing. I know it works. I know I've done some of it and I've gone through videos, but I have not gone start to finish. So it's exciting for me to know that there's other areas I can learn. And I do plug in stuff, and I do try to adjust. I try to make some stuff that I find areas, and I do review hands, but I just haven't done every single bit of the course. So I still have to go through some of it. I know it's super valuable gold. I know a lot of people that have done it fully, and again, I've used some of it, just not all of it. It's also really cool that you do updates. So talk a little bit about this 3-betting late position against 30 big blind stacks, and this says May 29 update, so very recently. Could you maybe just talk a little bit about what kind of, that you do update the tools, the software, the course, and then what kind of adjustments or things that you maybe changed or found, and why, like how that comes up?
So first of all, it was not so easy for me to hear what you did say, but I think you were on the 30 BB 3-betting video.
Yeah, that got updated.
Yeah.
What changed?
All right. We can just hop into the 3-betting discussion a little bit. So I did do a lot of 3-bet research before for the course. Also did some ranges for the course for the 3-betting, and the bigger the stacks are getting, the less and less you can feel the bounty influence. That's the main point, right? So unless you create a situation where it actually can go all in, the additional benefit of the dollars which you can win in or all in just gone, because you are not all in, right? So when stacks are getting deeper, and this is not only for 30 BB but for 40 BB as well, where people have a higher incentive to flat and not just 4-bet jam, then the 3-betting ranges are actually changing a lot compared to the short stack scenario, where you just 1, 2, 3-bet call way wider than you want in a non-KO case. And yeah, probably one outcome I could tell here is that for deeper stacks, you have a very, very high incentive to 3-bet call a lot of pairs, which you usually want to flat. So, of course, we know that, for example, when you're sitting at the button and you want to defend, let's say against 30 BB, so you're looking at your button defending range, you're flatting like every pair, right? Which is low, right? Of course, you want to value 3-bet your higher pairs, but for the smaller pairs, you usually just flat at the button. And in PKO, this is totally different. So early position over raises, and you're sitting at the button. You have a high incentive against 30, 40 big blinds to just 3-bet call all your pairs. And this is because how the range of the open raiser, which is 4-bet jamming, so the 4-bet jamming range in the end is constructed, and how much fold equity you get by 3-betting. And the incentive of calling those low pairs, deuces, threes, fours, etc., is dropping down compared to 3-betting like tremendously, and you should definitely change this in your PKO play compared to the non-KO play. This is just one example. Other examples, of course, if people are getting very, very short, you want to 3-bet more, and the question is what more? Like, do you 3-bet more high card heavy? Do you 3-bet more suited connector heavy? Do you do both? Of course, you always have to compare this to the EV of calling. What do I want to call against an MP open at the button? Do I want to call my 9-8 suited against a 20 BB MP open? Do I want to 3-bet call it? Right. So this is what we are doing in the 3-betting section.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, no, it's very important. These are that stacks too. It's like one of those things where tournaments and that 20, 30 blind stack, 15 to 30 blind stack, it's interesting, especially in KOs. I mean, it's just a lot more pile-ups and spots. You really got to be aware of what's going on and ready for it, because it's going to play differently as well than normal. Spot
probably probably just one more sentence.
Yeah.
Just probably keep in mind, you always have a higher incentive to lower the stack to pot ratio in PKOs, so that you want to create more spots where people just want to realize the equity and it goes all in. So you have the additional benefit of winning the bounty when you're calling, right? And this already tells you like 3-bet frequency will go up.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I want to ask you, stylistically, players that generally, let's say in a regular format MTT, do you think they fare better in KOs and knockouts just because maybe there's times where you get deeper in the stack to pot? Maybe not necessarily overall value-wise, right? Because you want to be trying to win bounties and have a big stack. But do you think that it favors tighter players to go deeper in these tournaments generally? Or not necessarily?
I don't know. I think not necessarily. So it's generally hard to win chips from tight players. And I just think that tight players are definitely minimizing their winnings in chaos, because money is distributed out all the time. And if you don't go for the chaos and just play your very, very tight approach, then you will win on average less bounties. And then you're just gifting like a lot of the prize to the other players who are hunting for the bounties, correctly hunting for the bounties, right? Not blindly. And I think a tight player is playing super tight is not good in a PKO format, obviously.
Right. Okay. Okay. So spot review and tool usage practice. I pulled up. I do want to go over some hands. I think we could do some from that. I had an exciting final table recently, and there's a couple spots that we could definitely pull up and talk about. I don't know. Are you able to watch on the side? Can you pull up? Is there a way you can pull up the Twitch stream so you can look at it?
Give me a second. Give me a second. By the way, it starts storming here in where I live.
Okay.
And hopefully the internet connection is holding. Sometimes it's breaking down when a very big storm comes, and now it looks like a very big storm. But yeah, right, we are just hoping the best. I did open it. Yeah. I can see
so
something.
Just have it on the side because I do want to pull up a couple of the spots. I think it's kind of fun to watch on a review, not even just on a
I must say I have a little bit of delay actually.
That's probably normal though because of Twitch.
Okay.
I think even when it's live, they do a little buffering just
cool.
to keep it, which is fine. Okay, so let's talk about here spot review and tool. Oh, little donation. saying very valuable information from W3C.RAY, W3C.RAY. Let's flow, man. Thank you for that donation, the GOAT. And we're back into the next section here, which is the spot review.
Very valuable info from
1 second.
LFG Let's Flow.
There it is. The nice donation there. Spot review and tool usage practice. Can you talk a little bit about what this is and what maybe people would to expect when doing this? And again, is this where you would want to have either ICMizer or the Hold'em resources?
It's actually our own tool. So we do provide an online tool to calculate the heads-up situations in PKOs. And since I'm also a lazy person and we have this Discord channel where everyone who owns the bounty course can ask questions, to be able to not always write the same and say, okay, this tool works like this and that. I did a video on how the tool works. And I use the video, of course, to do some interesting example hands.
This is, and so again, this is something that if you get the course, it does come with it. You don't need to necessarily have the other tools.
Correct. So if you get the course, you get access to the online calculation tool, and at least for heads-up situations, you're good to go.
Right. Okay. Which is it's huge. Okay. So that's the spot review. Let's practice and so adapting open range jamming, open jamming ranges. So talk a little about what that means. And spot, is this like you get to the button or you're in the cutoff and there's some like 15, 14, 12 blind stacks behind? Is this sort of practicing on hands in situations where you're just going to want to fire all in and not raise and deuce, that just sort of certain hand types that that's the optimal strategy?
Yeah. So those open jamming ranges, so I did focus, of course, on short stacks where you have a high incentive of jamming. So you are the short stack and the people behind you do cover you, right? And the question is if there's any difference in the jamming range. And let's put it like this, yeah, there is a big difference in the jamming ranges when you're getting short. So let me give you an example. For 11 big blinds, your jamming range from button usually contains a lot of suited hands, right? So what probably you name some, right? What you want to jam from a button? So like all the 9-7, 8-7 suited, 7-6 suited, 8-5 suited, and so on. You want to jam from a button for 11 big blinds first in, and in a PKO tournament, this is just horrible. You cannot jam those because not only that you're getting called so often by high cards in the blinds, right? So the big blind, of course, is just calling his king deuce offsuit because king high is a very valuable combo against your button open jamming range if you have 8-5 suited inside of your jamming range. So not only that those combinations are not in, you also, if you are very short, are coming a lot of the times, like we talked before, into multi-way situations. So you're jamming from a button, small blind has a higher incentive to re-jam probably even a big stack as well, and big blind, if he covers both, also is calling, and then you're sitting there with your 8 high in a multi-way pot, and it's just not enough equity. So this whole video deals with how pushing ranges are changing in a PKO because calling ranges are very different compared to the non-KO case of the players behind you.
Very, very interesting. Okay, so that's cool. That goes over a lot of those situations. So we'll skip down to the 100% PKO tournaments final table deals. Talk to me a little about what this is. This sort of gives you an idea of when it's good to make a deal and how it works.
So this is a very special format, right? This was actually a newer format introduced when I did the video. Where you don't have a regular prize pool anymore, but only play for bounties. And the question is how you approach this, because usually when you do the recalculation in chips, you say, okay, my chips are based on the regular prize pool worth like XY dollars. Now I compare this to the bounty size, and then I have an amount of chips. But if there is no regular prize pool, then this recalculation of bounties is actually pretty hard, right? So I had to do like another theory, little theory on this, actually very simple. And in the research, when I did this 100% KO research, I found out that there is some good way and some bad way how to do final table deals. In a KO tournament, usually people are dealing like, I don't know, like heads up or three-handed, right? In a KO, so they are dealing for the regular prize pool and are playing for the KOs. And I just do give advice to, like, when you feel you are one of the better players for the remaining field or one of the worst players of the remaining field, what you should do. If you should deal, how you should deal.
Right. Okay. So that's cool. That's very interesting, and definitely if you find yourself in some of those situations, it's good to understand at least what's optimal and what the thing to do is. I see study math as well. This is sort of towards the end here. This is just kind of talking about spots, good ways to review. Is that the
study math is actually breaking down? So you have several different ways of breaking down how the programs are working, and in study math, I'll show you exactly how the EV and the program is calculated. So so that you do understand how HRC, for example, is working. Combination.
Okay, and again, this is just good to know. It looks very complex, but more so just to understand it and give you some examples, and then you kind of have an idea. Don't get intimidated. This is what the course is, right?
This is again a theory video, right? So
it's good to
of course
understand.
theory, I'm doing math and
right. It's good to understand how you came to these conclusions, and so at home you don't have to necessarily, you're not the one breaking it out and doing all of it. You can sort of just know how it works. Same thing here. We have the PKO HRC usage.
Yeah.
So
since I did a lot in the Discord channel by reviewing hands of other players, of course, the owners of the course in the Discord channel, one very common mistake was that the setup in HRC was just wrong. So most of the players, actually, I think, like every of the players are using HRC in the Discord channel, and the setup, if you do the setup in HRC wrong, so you're setting the bounty price per wrong, you're forgetting that you have probably too much chips on your table compared to the average on the other tables. This will all change the outcoming ranges, the outcoming results, for example, for a calling range. And since this was done wrong so many times, I just do a video on how you do the setup in HRC correctly, so that you don't do the mistakes and get good results. Because the results are really different if you do the setup wrong.
Right. That's yeah. No, it's important to make sure, or else it's kind of counterintuitive, counterproductive. If you don't do things, you don't plug in the right stuff, you're going to be very confused and get some.
Yeah, then you're doing all the research right, and you're learning wrong stuff because you're not reusing the program correctly. And it sounds like very stupid, because everyone can use a program correctly, but it turned out that there are like very little fallacies where a lot of people did fall through. And yeah, this is just for clearance.
Yeah, that's huge. PKO practice raise versus jam short stacked. So maybe explain a little bit what this is.
Show you. Probably I ask you a question. You have 20 big blinds on the cutoff, and you have ace-9 suited in a PKO. What are you doing?
I have 20 big blinds on the cutoff with ace-9 suited. And what would be my play?
What would be your play in a PKO? Everyone is covering you behind you.
Everyone covers me. I mean, it depends. I guess it depends a bit what stage or whatnot. But yeah, I'd probably just rip it.
Yeah. So this is an honest answer, and the most players are actually doing this, and this is just not good.
Not good. Raise? Just raise?
Yeah, just raise, because you are taking away so many opportunities for the players to 3-bet you with a weak range. Like we said before, right? They have a high incentive to 3-bet you, and they are enlarging their 3-betting range with a lot of holdings, which are of course beaten by ace-9 suited. So you have a way higher incentive of just raise, ripping it in, than just ripping it in.
So you're saying, but you're saying you're raising inducing almost. You're just going to raise, but go with it unless there's like a raise unless someone goes raise and jam.
And this is not even an induce, because the 3-betting range, you don't necessarily have to have an equity edge in a PKO. It's all right if you have 40% equity against the in-getting range. That's totally fine, or 35%, depending on the bounty. It's totally all right to show your king six suited in the scenario at the button when you did open raise the cutoff. That's all right, because dollar-wise, it's the correct play to, for example, 3-bet call king six suited, even if you know that you have ace nine suited.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, okay, and the difference in win rate in the end in between open raising compared to jamming is like enormous. It's like sometimes 30, 40 big blinds per 100. So
Whoa.
this is like
So give me an example. So I have 20 blinds.
different.
I'm in the cutoff. I raise to what? Just min raise? Just min raise it? And then the big blind, small blind 3-bets me.
Yeah.
So then
and
what?
we are getting it in?
Just 4-bet jam and...
Yeah, just getting it in.
Versus, and because instead of shoving, the thought then what? You're just going to get like better hands basically almost to call you, versus where here you might get some 3-bet bluffs.
Yeah, you're definitely losing on the hands which want a 3-bet fold, and you are losing on the, especially in the top range. So now we have the ace nine suited scenario, right? But especially in the top range, which you probably tend to not jam, but open raise, right? So your jamming range is overall not so great protected, and if you start jamming aces to protect your open jamming range, so you have like some good combinations and not only ace nine suited in your jamming range, right? Then you're taking away a lot of the situations where you open raise, someone 3-bet, someone is going for the wide 3-bet and 4-bet jams, and you're sitting there with your nut and say, thank you, I call.
So
right?
if it goes 3-bet to 6-7 blinds or whatever, and the small blind and the big blind jams,
then it's very, very dependent on how big the stack sizes are for the small blind and the big blind, and how you perceive the big blind if he can pick up on the small blind. So let's say we have like 2 decent racks, right? In the big blind, then it's still just a rip.
Wow, interesting. All right, well, like, listen, already I feel like that's a great. So give me another. If it's ace nine suited, what about? Well, you would do the same with like a hand, like. But what about like low, like sixes and such? You would just jam though, correct? Or would you get it? Would you what?
This is one of the like whatever combos, right? So I definitely tend to open raise call in the higher fields because the 3-bet frequencies are just going up because people are understanding how it works. If you are playing low stakes, you will find yourself very often just in multi-way pots at the cutoff. So you open raise your sixes, button is calling, small one is calling, big blind is calling, and this is of course something which you definitely wanted to avoid, right? So if you have the read or the information that players behind you are definitely under 3-betting and are not approaching the situation, let's call it correctly, or they are not willing to hunt your bounty with a wider range, then of course you have a higher incentive, especially for the hands which have a horrible equity multi-way but a very, very high equity heads up to jam those.
Right. I see here in the course too how you say it's kind of like open raise fold, open raise call, and then indifferent. And these are the hands you're saying that you're saying you don't mind if you shove or raise.
No, exactly. Those are especially hands like Queen Jack, Queen 10 suited, low pairs.
Looks like low suited aces, low pairs, yeah, in particular. And then there are some open raise folds. So yeah, that's super. I think that's I think one of the things in PKOs in general, but just really in tournaments, it's so. You notice this more in recreational or learning up and coming players or people that are less, students of the game. But generally, your last hand isn't the one that matters, right? Like it's like, oh, I lost kings to ace queen or whatever, right? Most of the game. But this is interesting because these type of hands are. This is a big deal. Like you said 30, 40 big blinds per 100 is insane. And I mean, there's hard to find spots that are. So much you can really change because like I said, I feel like I'm fairly competent, but you can see I would have I assume shoving is right. So that's very cool. That's very valuable, and this type of stuff. I think this one in particular, showing you the different hands and stack sizes on which ones to jam, open raise call, indifferent, or this is super, super valuable. These type of things, and this is the primarily, is this the portion at the end? Is this like, let's just say you were like, you know what, this looks intimidating, I'm not going to go through the whole course. Is this part of it? What would you say is like the most valuable to sort of jump if you were going to go in and just sort of look through and want to pick up some quick fixes? Is this like a good spot to practice raise versus jam short stack?
This is definitely a good spot. I also did a common leaks video directly below, just in the May,
Where's that
where directly below.
Oh, common leaks. Okay.
Where I just talk about like where I see the most common leaks in the PKO, and it was directly below this video.
Okay.
Right. But we already did talk about a little bit about this. So being too tight at the early stages, being way too loose at the final table when it comes to call off all-ins, spotting the wrong player in the multi-way all-in as the most important player. Right. So the most important player is usually the player with the bigger stack, but sometimes that's not the case in the PKO, because winning side pots is very important. And winning main pots is sometimes not so important. So there are, like, I think very, very big leagues, and also in the race versus jam, in the 3-bets, what you want to 3-bet. In the 30BB 3-bet, we have also some very interesting outcomes where you don't actually 3-bet a lot more, but you're constructing your 3-betting range a little bit different. I think, I don't know if you're asking me which one is like the most valuable video inside of this, I probably cannot give like an answer.
No, I'm just saying let's for lack of a better word, lazy. Let's say I show someone who's like just wants a quick fix. They don't want to go through and watch all of it. Like if they just want to someone that's playing some bounties, maybe let's call it a fun rec player, someone who wants to kind of help their win rate but isn't ready to do the full course. Where's a great place to just kind of hop to, and maybe they can just sort of spark something that like for example the thing you just mentioned about the ace-9 suited, that type of stuff. Like this seems to be a good section, right, where you're basically
so you're looking, first of all, you can just look at the ranges distributed in the range viewer, and already see how things are different compared to a non-KO case. When you're playing online, especially when you're playing online, we did create this concept which just gives you equity number. So let's say your odds, let's say you need 43% equity. You're just looking at our concept. This is more or less a table where information is inside, and you see, okay, this guy has 1 start stack and 1 start bounty. Usually I did need 43%. Now I need 36%. Okay, so this is something which you can just use right away. You don't have to calculate anything at the table. Not much, to be honest, at the table. And do exactly know how much equity you need. And the only thing you have to do, but you have to do this all the time in poker, so this is not KO related, you have to know which combination has how much equity against the range, right? This is poker, so this is not KO related. You just have to know how much King Queen suited has against a 12% range, which either contains top range or doesn't.
Right.
This is something you just have to know, right? So that, for example, in this scenario, I think King Queen suited has with top range included like 43%, and without top range like 45% equity. So where's the 12% range? And this is just something you have to know. And if you do know this, so if you can actually approach all-in spots correctly without a bounty, then you're just taking like the bounty power concept, which is shown at the very end. You understand how it works. Then you go into the practical videos and the ranges, and you're good to go. And for the theory, let the theory be theory. If you're not a theory guy, right, you can just do this if you want, or you can also let it slip if you're not the math guy. I personally, as I said, find it very important to understand the logic behind and how results are created, not just show the results and say, okay, eat it. But yeah, this is just me.
Great. All right, that makes a ton of sense. Now let's see the Raise Your Edge HUD stats. So this is something that you can download. There's a install Raise Your Edge HUD stats, and where is this? This is within for PT4 and also for Hold'em Manager.
We do have an online version of the stat, which you can just, so those are essentially tables I just talked about, which you can just print out or look at. And we have the stat also for Poker Tracker 4, because Poker Tracker 4 was the only platform where we could make it piracy safe.
And Party Poker is getting rid of the HUD for that, and I don't know what else, but that would not be able to be used once that happens.
No, you can just put this as a pop-up in whatever. So you can still run the HUD, or you can just still print it out. So this is not a stat which has to calculate a lot. This is more or less just giving you the equity drops for any given situation in a tournament, as long as not strong ICM is involved. The equity, and with equity drops, I mean the influence of the bounty, right, on your equity.
Okay. That's that's
into
helpful.
My ranges.
Also here, just Ego Broke is in the chat saying poker players lazy. No, right? Yeah, I don't think so. No lazy poker players out there. And he wants to know, can you ask about how ICM plays in bounties once in the money, and is it important? Does future EV a stack matter? We did cover this. We kind of ran through the course, but just I think this is one of the more important pieces of, tournament poker, of course, and bounties. It's interesting. Maybe you could just cover that last before we go look at some examples from a final table run.
Yeah, so hopefully I did get the question correct. Of course, ICM is important in PKOs. You have those two competing forces, right? So the bounty which you can win and the ICM pressure you are facing. And the ICM pressure makes you needing more equity, and the bounty makes you needing less equity. And those two are competing all of the time in a PKO tournament. And it is very, very dependent on how much stack you have to invest compared to how much bounty you can win, and how much of the regular prize pool is left. So at the final table, the ICM pressure compared to the bounty pressure is actually way higher than when you just reach the money.
Okay.
Although, right, a lot of bounties have already been distributed out at the before you actually reach the final table. So this is, I think this is like a very big fallacy a lot of players are falling in when they are just looking at the plain dollars they can win, and say, okay, if I win this bounty, I make like 2 pay jumps or 3 pay jumps. And this actually I read very, very often in the Discord channels and in discussions about PKO hands, and this is a big fallacy. This is not how PKOs are working. Stack has a lot of value, especially deep in the tournament, and there's a very good way, the bounty power concept, to evaluate how much actually the bounty, doesn't matter what the number is, if it's $1,000 or $2,000 or just $20, it gives you an evaluation of how much the bounty is actually really worth, and not just in dollars. And people tend to fall in this, this is a 1.5k bounty in a 530 tournament, but not realizing that their stack is actually worth 20k, which they're risking, right? So this is just like very extreme example, right? But they're saying, it's a big bounty, I want to chase for this, and investing in stack dollar value way, way more than the bounty is worth, and ending up punting away a lot.
Right. Okay, and then here, bounty power conceptual, the last portion here. Can you talk a little bit about this, the different equity REQ, and if maybe just touch on this principle?
So what the principle does is taking 2 key informations, the stack size of your opponent and the size of the bounty, put this all together in a number, and then tell you, depending on this number, how big the bounty influence is. So this is what I just talked about, right? So this, like, if you can win 5 bounties and have to invest 50 start stacks, then the deal is not very good, right? So this number will be very low, and the equity drops like 1% compared to the odds which you are getting. If you turn this around and say you can win, for example, 3 bounties and only have to invest 1 start stack, then the equity drop is actually like 15% or 20%. Right. So instead of like needing 43% equity, you're needing 23% equity, and then you're calling any 2. So right. This is how this concept is working. It gives you in the end percentage numbers, which you're just subtracting from the given equity given by the odds. This makes multi-tabling very easy.
Okay, perfect. Well, this is honestly, just going through it, it's kind of refreshing just to go see what everything is, which sections you kind of looking at more that you think are, what people might want to kind of practice and do, and if depending on time-wise, some other stuff that just for a little quicker version, if you want to get some tips, and the ace-9 suited example, very valuable, that kind of stuff, realizing that those can make a huge difference in win rate. So it is really important to understand these different spots, and there's some really useful charts and range viewers in these different scenarios as well. So we touch on that, guys. I want to give you a chance. The Raise Your Edge bounty math, we'll do this at a later time. I think that you had some examples pulled up. I know the Windows update today happened, but again, we kind of covered all of it. There's a $200 off on the Bounty Beast right now. That is with the code FLOWBOUNTY. We have a tweet as well. Going to give a $20 giveaway at the end of the day. Also, 2 Raise Your Edge badges. Or bags, gym bags, we're going to give away. If you guys want to ask a question, we'll take a look at some of these questions. But quickly, I do want to go to this final table recently where I played with. It was pretty cool. Tonka was at the final table. I think let's just take a look at the cash, the prizes. We ended up winning the tournament for, I believe, $35,000, which was nice. I thought we played pretty well. Definitely a couple spots that were, tricky. I want to see. Let's see. I guess we could do a few hands. Does it make sense just to go from here? There was one in particular, which might be a good example, where Isildur was at the table, and I ended up raised. Let's take a look at this. Can you have my screen up, right? It's just on a slight delay.
I do.
Okay, so I want to look at this hand here with Isildur, and I have 40 big blinds now at this final table, and 2 sevens. It's pretty standard here to open. Let me play it and mute it on here just to, this was from Twitch. So we end up raising, and then there's a 13 blind shove here. So, looking at it, Isildur had been playing pretty snug. I know he knows I'm pretty snug. Obviously, looking from a perspective of ICM and also risk premium, just as for Isildur's sake, right? He has nowhere to really go, or ladder. He's the shortest stack. He has the lowest risk premium. But I think this would be a really interesting hand to talk about in terms of plugging in and sort of seeing what would be a good minimum to call with. Because I think 2 sevens, I think we're too high up to call, but it's like in my mind, I really didn't think he was shoving a lot worse, even though all those things considered. Is this an example where we could sort of look at and say to plug in everything and look what would be the minimum, and just off your instinctually looking at this spot? I mean, 7 seems like a pretty reasonable raise call for, it's $650 bounty, but I don't love it.
I think that's actually the bottom. Probably 6s is the bottom. 5s is definitely a fault. I think you're not opening 5s probably anyways. So from the pair perspective, it's definitely the bottom. If I'm thinking about what he should jam here, he should actually be very, very tight, right? Probably if he thinks that especially the cutoff is probably has probably a higher incentive to just jam, which he can. The button cannot call anything, and the blinds also are very fogged if he jams. So probably he's picking up on the 2 big stacks behind him and can increase his jamming range a little bit more with a little bit more high card equity. But in general, he should be still tight in this kind of scenario. And there is a tight range, and there is a very, very small bounty. What was the starting stack in this tournament? 50K?
Sounds right.
Sounds right?
Yes.
Okay, so he has 15.5 star stacks, right? And the start bounty. So this is what kind of buy-in? This is
$530. It says on there on the thing, yeah, 530.
Okay.
56.
And the number shown is still the full bounty, right? So not half of it, but the full bounty.
No, I think you get half.
Okay. Yeah, this is what I was asking. So he has 2.5 start bounties, and you're risking 15.5 starting stacks. So you already see this is not a very good ratio, right? And so the equity drop in this kind of scenario is 2% at best. And 2% less compared to the ICM influence which you have on a final table makes it overall probably pretty stable. So you would raise call what you would raise call on a non-KO final table here, and probably add 1 combo. and that's it.
Yeah.
So if you're raise calling sevens here on a non-KO final table, then you're raise calling sevens as well. Here, of course, obviously. I think sevens should be, seen it now, should be definitely the bottom here.
So solid.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I didn't love it. I see as we do.
Yes.
We do call off and
Yes.
we thanks for that subscription, Crammed Realm. Also, great streamer, very entertaining. Shout out to Highlight Hub as well on Instagram. So yeah, it's nice to get there. Obviously, a super critical pot, going down to like 26, 27 blinds, up to 53, and getting the knockout. I mean, that was a pivotal run good spot at the table. I'm just trying to scroll through a bit. You know, I do get a little saucy the next hand and open King Jack off, which I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like maybe that, you know, in terms of, I guess, what are we? 6-handed, King Jack off under the gun. So really it's what? Button, cut off, hijack, low jack. I mean, you're in the low jack, 6 max. King Jack can't be too bad. But I do open that and get in an interesting spot and end up getting lucky. I want to maybe just review a couple, maybe a couple all-ins are more exciting than this. We end up trying to think. What type of hands would you think we should kind of scroll through and look at?
Whatever hands you like, mate. Whatever hands. So we did open big stack to call. I think King Jack offsuit open is fine. I mean, you have 50 bigs, right? So that's all right. And yeah, we cannot really call a rejam here. But oh, hello. What did we do on the flop?
Let's see. So on the flop was, I believe I think I checked back. I think I went check. I'm almost sure. Let's see, 21. Let me just scroll back here. And look, there's a look at, I don't know if you want to, there's the payout information as well. So it's like, you know, that first is, it's interesting how they do it on Party where first and second is like the same. And then obviously they try to like make it a little less crazy with the payout.
It actually just changes the point where the craziness starts. So I've seen a 3-handed example from the first equals second payout structure, where in a normal scenario without PKOs, where the button super short stack jams and the small blind rejams, where you call like queens plus, and in the bounty scenario you did call 60% range. And this is only because first and second is the same, right? So it doesn't really matter if you are finishing first or second in this kind of scenario. In the PKO case, when you have an additional bounty value, you just have to go for it. So the first equals second just drives the craziness from like 4-handed down to 3-handed.
Right, that makes sense. It's interesting. It really, these things are, it does get crazy, and the heads up battle is pretty intense because it's a big difference. Obviously, I mean that's generally how poker works, right? With first and second, but it does just seem more emotional how it looks, at least in the lobby with how they post it. Yeah, so I actually did c-bet. I went like what's that? About third pot with the diamond, having the jack of diamonds. I like that card. Open-ended. I guess I kind of want to target him folding some pairs as well as, you know, just I think having that jack of diamonds is just nice. Not as worried about him having the flush combos, but I do bet and then hit the nuts, so that's always a good style. And then I actually end up, I think I might have, did I slip it to him? I think I checked when really maybe when he calls I should just be betting big here, going for 3 streets, but I think I got a little cute and checked. What do you think there?
So I just wonder what you are betting small on the flop and check on the turn.
Yeah,
right.
Almost,
so
it looks like almost like I would give up. Like I guess would I ever bet? Am I betting like 6s and 8s and 9s, just trying to take it down? Maybe not.
Maybe not. I think you're just check folding most of the times against a range which contains a lot of the stuff which lies on the board, right? And I actually check here all of the time on the flop, I think. And if I tend to bet, then I'm just bombing it, right? So I don't want to get raised in this kind of ICM scenario here, and on a flop, I mean, right? And I don't have a very big betting range anyways on this flop, so I think I'm checking. And on the turn, I'm definitely betting. So there are just a lot of hands which did improve, especially like all the ace X which have a diamond, did improve on the turn, which he doesn't necessarily need to raise on the flop. Also hands like, of course, like ace jack and ace 9 of clubs or something like this did improve. And yeah, I'm betting the turn. River play is fine.
Okay. Well,
so I think you definitely missed some value on the turn and on the flop as well.
For sure. All right. Well, so here's a very interesting hand. I actually tagged this and wanted to talk to Ben about it, but I wanted to. This is a weird one. So let's let this one play out, and we can talk about this a little bit. So I defend King 10 off, and it comes 10-9-6 rainbow. So pretty good flop for me. I flop top pair, second kicker, rainbow board. And this player is very tough. This is who I end up getting heads up with, and he puts me in a pretty interesting situation. So we'll maybe do this hand in one other one, and I think we're closing in on an hour and a half, and we can take some questions as well. So I do. It's a
puke spot.
Yeah, this is a big bet here. I mean, he's going what? It's like 6. I mean, so half pot is 170. So he's going significantly big here, which is a little concerning for me, right? For him to be because this is a range that would favor me. I'm gonna flat 7/8. I'm gonna have some 2 pair stuff in here. I'm gonna have a bunch of different things where I don't know. I mean, he's just going very big, so I'm instantly a little concerned. But obviously,
I wouldn't. By the way, sorry to interrupt. I won't do this again. I just realized.
No, please do.
Yeah, sorry. I don't think actually this range favors you as much as you think, because he's the chip leader on this final table, and he can raise the world here. So he can have definitely all straights. He can even have all the 8-7 offsuit combos. He definitely has all pairs. He definitely has all, if he plays correctly, all the 9-6 suited stuff as well. So he has nearly every 2 pair as well if you're defending 9-6 offsuit in this spot, which you probably won't given the ICM. So when it comes to range strength, I would say he's even favored on this kind of structure because he has also all the overpairs which you don't have. So probably if he's not opening every 8-7 offsuit combo, then you have in the very nuts a little range advantage, but that's not making up for like the overall range advantage he has. So he should actually bet a lot here, I think.
All right, that's interesting perspective. That's true. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I guess like typically that it would make sense what I'm saying, but that's something I guess that's important to be very aware of. And then, yeah, he has a massive chip lead, and he definitely that's a good point. So yeah, okay, so good. That's a good analysis and makes a lot of sense. So here we go. The turn comes an 8. I expect him obviously to be betting his gut shots, and again, he does have like ace. He has a lot of potentially. He's got it all here. I mean, this is just a disaster card really for me, and I already kind of know what's coming. I know this is going to be a big bet. And I don't have a jack in my hand. I don't have a queen in my hand. And he does, I think, bomb here, and I'm pretty sure I just fold. But what is there anything different you could do on that flop other than check call? Don't think so, right?
No. On the flop you cannot do anything different than check call. On a turn I would consider leading small, just to keep some like king jack. You're blocking those hands, right? But you're keeping like king jack, ace jack, etc. in, which should probably check back a little bit more often on this kind of structure. But given the whole range strength, he probably is just straight betting like near the range. He's playing out of early position. I can imagine that this can happen, and then he still has like enough jack X in his range. But this is like the only difference you can play, right? You can bet fold small on the turn, and don't mind check folding. Check folding is totally
fine. Up check folding. I did tag that hand. It was kind of awkward. I just felt like I was in a rough spot. This is actually maybe the most fun hand of the tournament. Now that I see it, it reminds me, I kind of want to know what you think, because these are spots where I'm trying to get a little more creative, find some bluffs, do some more kind of PO type hands and rep some bluffs. But this was an interesting one. So I don't know, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. Let's just let this one play. So I have ace-7 off, I defend. It comes 4-5-9 with a rainbow, and I get a C bet from a player who I perceive to be pretty solid. He's also opening into an 11 blind stack on the button, and he's got, like I said, he had like 45 to start the hand, or maybe a little more actually. I defend ace-7 off, and kind of weird, right? Because I'm in technically second right now. So I guess you're on a little delay. I'm just gonna kind of let it play. I decided to check raise here, which is it's a little ambitious, but I just feel like I'm gonna rep like 8s, 3s. I could get some folds from like Queen Jack, Jack 10, King 10, all those type of Broadway hands. And also I just feel like I think I'm also streaming live on Twitch. People know I play real ABC, kind of solid in general, and I decided to go for a check raise with this hand. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, putting in random hands which have some kind of backdoor equity, I think is all right from time to time. In general, this is definitely not a check raise, so your hand does not have enough equity here to raise. I probably consider 3-betting preflop sometimes if you have kind of a straightforward image and you have the ace blocker, and the guy should open a little bit wider since the button is so small. So I definitely my 3-bet frequency is going up here. Also, you can put a lot of pressure on this guy, giving the ICM situation, and given the flop where he shouldn't c-bet as much. Although he can have a wider opening range, still I don't see like 5-4 offsuit, which you should defend. I don't see 9-5 offsuit, which you probably defend, especially since you cover him. He's not opening this, so you have a big advantage in the 2 pairs, also in the open-ended straight draws. And you can have all sets beside 9s also, because you're probably not 3-betting 4s here, because you cannot call the jam. 5s also you cannot call a jam, I see. So yeah, I'm not 3-betting this. I'm not raising this on a flop.
Okay, well we got.
I think that, like, the randomness that you want to do this sometimes, doesn't matter what the hands is. I know a very, very successful player who's playing like exactly like this. He sees the hand, he understands how the range of the other one is looking like, right? And he understands CGO, but then he has a plan and he says, okay, I know he's puking so much in this kind of scenario when I just check raise and bomb the turn. Doesn't really matter how the turn likes, because I know how his range is constructed. I don't care if I have enough equity, I just play it that way. And I personally think this is totally fine if you do this sometimes.
Okay. All right. Okay, cool. Well, I end up repping it. I got a good card on the turn. I even bet small, kind of looking like I had the 6-7. That was my intention, and then rip river, but so a little bit unconventional, but not a normal play I'm going to make. I want to just look at a trap and talk about this king's hand. So let me just let this progress. So here we are. I'm in second, 3-handed, but basically tied for second, and I get popped huge with kings. So started the hand with like 53 blinds, and I just talking about the advantage, but based on the chip leader kind of putting pressure on and flatting versus 4-betting. What are your thoughts in this situation?
Flatting all day long.
Okay, so I do flat, and then we get a very favorable flop, a perfect flop really, the deuce-8 deuce. Can't get much cleaner than that. Best case almost with 2 diamonds out there, and he bets small, and just wondering if you would go for a call or decide to maybe get the pot going a little bit here, like maybe somehow, there is a flush draw. I don't have a diamond in my hand. Also, if he has somehow over a pair, maybe he's not going to go away and think I have a diamond draw. What are your thoughts on the flop after I flat?
I think I mix it, to be honest, and I don't know the tendency. So, do you think that this player is c-betting range here because it's a low paired board? Do you think he's c-betting range here? And how do you see his 3-betting range pre-flop in the first place? Because the 3-bet was rather large.
Yeah, I think he's got a wide range. I think he's going to throw in some ace-4 suiteds and those type of hands. Like, I think he definitely has some bluffs. And
then calling makes a lot of sense.
So I just called pre, but then I end up checking. And then I think the one mistake really on the hand was, or the thing I didn't love was on that turn. I end up checking back when the diamond hits. No. But I think I should probably just I don't think he has diamonds when he just calls my re-raise. I guess he could, but maybe I'm just supposed to, the stack to pot ratio is like 1/2 almost. Maybe just supposed to go with it here. I bet, I don't know. That was the one spot where I got a little confused.
I'm definitely going for it on the turn. I mean, he technically has like no diamonds at all.
Right.
Which diamonds can he have against your ace? Which he's not jamming on the flop because it's max EV to jam it on the flop.
Right. That's where I think got a little too cute and check, and then the ace ends up peeling, and it goes check check, and he had I think sevens or nines, sevens I think. So yeah, I mean, just from a perspective on the river, I think, or on the turn, maybe just rip it in 1/2 stack to pot ratio. Like if he does have like nines or sevens or something with a diamond, or even like ace jack with a diamond or something, ace queen, he's gonna probably call. Or I mean, he might, or make him at least make a decision. So yeah, I think that was the spot where I should just led through with it. That you just
a little bit scared of the diamond, which is a little bit understandable, I think. But if you think about all the possible combos which you can 3-bet, c-bet, call against your ace of this kind of structure, you don't end up with many flush combos he can actually have, which is not. Where he has no incentive to rip it on the flop anyways, right? So I don't see many flushes. So I'm just going with it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. We do get the knockout there, ace king. I think we had another shot. Yeah. So this was fun. I mean, it's hard. It's obviously fun to finish off a tournament. This was a big one. This was a Sunday 5:30, like 398 person. So this was cool. Got the thing, but I mean, even can tell there's certain spots and certain things. Like these are the spots where I think it's important for people to understand that you need to plug in hands, like the sevens hand with Isildur. Like in my mind, it was close, and I thought that was pretty standard. But you can see it's really important. Those are the kind of spots where you want to then plug in and actually do the math and say. So when you're back there, it's not like, oh, what do I do? I have sixes, or I have fives, or I have king jack suited, and just know what you're supposed to do. So I think that's a good example of these type of hands to go back and plug in, right, and take spots and find. Find situations that are tricky and you're not sure about, and then you get to go in and plug. And so when it does come down to, when it comes down to it, you're just comfortable. And is this something I think you probably find that not to be results oriented, right? Where it's like you gotta go in there and do the work, and you can take one hand and learn a lot from it, whether it's your hand or someone else's, or a spot where you're not familiar with, right? I mean, that is that generally where you find you do a lot of work. Is you go through and you just plug in those spots?
Yeah, especially spots which are not happening that often anymore. So when you've done like all the research and did do the sim work and so on, and did understand the general logic, then a lot of spots are actually totally clear how they are playing out. And so the edge also for other good players, that's the point, right? And the only thing where you can get an edge is when you're better in those tiny little spots. And I think in PKO there's a lot of room for mistakes, so we are not there compared to the non-KO case. But I'm also doing like a lot of spot review still when I'm playing. Then I'm doing a lot of spot review. Especially in the multi-way situations, there's a lot of curiosity in range estimation. What you think the other one is overjamming against already 2 jams, right? And then you can be very right, very wrong, and yeah.
Right.
This is what I'm doing a lot at the moment, multi-way stuff.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's cool. I've got a question in the chat here, and then we'll go ahead and take a few more questions, and then we'll wrap it up here to the $20 giveaway. We got 2 Raise Your Edge gym bags to give out as well. And we do have a question from Ivan Arg1. What reaction did your family have when learning that you wanted to be a professional poker player? Obviously you have a 19-month or 17-month-old son, I believe, and you have so you're married, and I guess your wife, right, knew you were a poker player. But what about your family? Was that hard? Was that like a tough discussion, or how was that? Because I always like asking this to pokers, professionals or people. You're a little more seemed like on the analytical side. You're doing some core stuff. You're doing some other things. But was that a tough conversation for your family to realize you're doing that?
No, since I always do my regular job anyways, and poker is like poker has a space when I got free time, and I of course try to get a lot of free time, and free time means I don't have time with my family, right? So my family comes first, and friends and so on, and the rest of the free time I'm just spending on poker. So I probably wouldn't see myself even as a professional, right? Because I have a regular job, I'm doing my PhD. And so there was no like real room for discussion. Of course, I had a discussion with my family when everything started, when I was young, and you're gambling your money away. But my parents are when they did understand how poker works, my parents are also like very mathematically based, and they did understand where the edge in the game comes from, and then everything was cool, right? My father said, as long as the Russians are not in front of the door and want my money, right, you're good to go.
Well, there you go.
This is what my father said.
That's hilarious. No, that's for sure. Okay, well that makes sense. Let's see on here. Let's take a look. So we'll take a couple questions. We'll do the giveaway, and then I hope that helped, guys. We will have this up on YouTube, a replay. We'll make a couple clips as well. Much work in all years. Okay, let's see. What's your favorite way to relax and wind down after a long sessions? This is from Bot Lady on Twitter.
I am usually already relaxed when a session does end. So I'm just listening to usually some classic music. I do this a lot. So listening to classic, yeah.
Awesome.
Sounds pretty boring and old, but
no, man.
This is
We
how
want
I
to know.
relax.
We want to know the. We want to know the tricks. What's your favorite food?
Pizza.
Pizza. Nice.
Definitely pizza. I'm the
good,
pizza guy.
Good answer. For you, who is the most complete poker player today? Maybe name a few, or it's kind of a hard question. I mean, obviously you're from a camp.
That's a hard question. So if I can name a few, that would be great. So I think from a game theoretical perspective and how he applies this to the whole poker game, I think Linus Love is probably at the moment the most complete player. But also like a lot of the German group, which is doing the GDO stuff. So Christoph Vogelsang or Stefan Sondheimer, those are like beasts, insane beasts when it comes to poker. When it comes to probably exploitative plays, so online, I definitely think actually Ben Sibi is one of the best players in the world. When I look at his hand histories and how he does exploit people, this is just, I don't know. I cannot do even like 15% of how good he is in the spots to see the spots and exploit the people with the right sizings. That's like very, very good. And there are some other guys who are doing this like very, very good, like Viso Online is doing this very good. Giraffe Ganger also is like a very, very sick beast when it comes to aggression and just punishing people for like little weakness they are showing. And yeah, I don't know for the cash games. I actually don't know. I'm not that big of a cash game guy, but there are definitely some guys out there like bit too easy, or I don't even know if OTB is still playing, but OTB and Source were like the gods when I watched some cash game, right? So yeah, there are a lot of players, but for the most complete player, probably Linus Love at the moment.
Right. Muggy W asks, who is your favorite componist? Who's your favorite composer for music, classical?
I do really enjoy listening to Beethoven.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a great answer. I know that name. I know some classical music, and that's definitely one. How long do you think poker will be profitable to make a living? Decided is asking.
Always.
I agree.
Always.
With that.
Probably online not. Probably online is just flooded with programs which we cannot control. Right.
Well, shout out to Party Poker, who's getting rid of HUDs and trying to make some big dramatic changes and new names. Did you know that they're having an alias race, 500K on
I heard
Monday?
It, and I like it.
Everyone changing their name. So it's kind of a crazy time. If you got it's like Ronaldo or Neymar or these one name guys. If your name's Ben or Tim or Bruce, you can go on and imagine Twitter started over. You could have your own name, your own handle. You can have your own name on Party and just get your own custom brand new name. That's, I believe, the 17th or in the morning Eastern time or European time. I'm sorry. I think like it's 4 a.m. East Coast time here in the U.S. But yeah, if you want to get a new name and you want to get that name, that's just, it's available. So check that out and we'll see, man. I don't know. Party's doing some ambitious stuff. I think it's going to work overall, but it's going to be interesting to see how that all goes with no HUDs and new names and all this jazz. I mean, it's like you said, they got to try some stuff because online there is some problems with softwares and people feeling intimidated and the whole thing. So hopefully that helps. I think it will.
Yeah, life will be always beatable, always.
Yeah, poker for sure. And you 100%. Can see the numbers are up everywhere in general, like the live tournaments and all these things. There was a question: do you think there should be a bounty championship in poker, like the World Series, a bounty king? That would be pretty cool. I'm sure you'd like that.
I like that. I like that idea. Let's go for it. Yeah.
Do you think that? Yeah. Do you think that would be? Do you think that would do well? Like say at the World Series. I mean, they have some. They'd start with that 10K bounty tournament each summer. That would be kind of cool. I guess it's sort of like that, right? But they don't really do the PKO, and I guess live.
Yeah, it's just too hard live. Like taking half of a chip away and keeping half of a chip at the dealer or something like this, right? This would, I think if it works live, it's actually even more confusing because you always have to ask not only the stack size if you're not a very experienced player, but also, how much bounty do you have on your head actually? So probably this is not really practical for live play, but I would like to have it. But it's probably not happening.
Right.
I think the regular KO is already sufficient.
Right. Cats or dogs?
Cats or no, I get the question. Definitely dogs.
Dogs.
I'm a
dogs
guy,
too.
yeah.
What's your favorite question ever? Is there a question that you've ever been asked that like caught you off guard, or you're like, wow, that's really interesting? I've never heard anyone ask this. It's a question asking you what's your favorite question. I don't know if I've never had that before, so I'm not really sure. But do you have a favorite question?
It's very to answer. Also, so for a cool answer, I have to think deeply about this, right? And Rainer probably had already like a very good answer, but the question I'm asked the most, so the more often is what we want to eat today, right? So this is the question which I hear the most every day, probably twice. So and the answer is always different. So this is actually not. Yeah, okay. But I don't have like a very confusing question. There are hard questions to answer, and yeah.
Right. Someone else asked, how long do you think online poker will be profitable for? If you had to guess, do you think it's kind of ambiguous and hard and depends on many factors. But if you had to say 1 year, 3 years, 10 years, 20 years, like what would be your guess if you just had to throw out a number without really getting too deep into it?
Between 5 and 10 years.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Because poker players are lazy. And for example, like the old GTO stuff is out for already like 3, 4, 5 years. And I still know a lot of people don't even have like a good understanding of the very basics, but this will come. This will come because this will be more and more important, even at the mid-stakes tournaments. And I know that some nations, especially some big stables, are working hard and a lot on it. And people will realize this and start. But in general, poker players are lazy. So every time good new content is coming out, you can say, okay, you have a range in between 5 and 10 years until it soaks into old people. I mean, ICM was also like, 2003, 4, cool in, and yeah, it also took me like 10 years to really get it.
Yeah, I think also it's important people that need to understand as well, like poker's timeless. There was 7-card stud, 5-card draw, limit hold'em, all these different things, right? So it's like there's now these PKO, there's these other power, there's all these crazy formats, there's different variations they're banning. It's like cat and mouse, taking away software, adding it, finding stuff. So like, maybe it's 5-card big O, or there's other variations and they find ways to, like, people love to get something where there's a combination of luck and skill, and that's what's so beautiful about poker. So I think like it's just a timeless game. There's going to be new games, there's short deck, there's other variations. It's just always going to be some form of games that are new and exciting, innovative. So I think that's something important to remember as well. It might not be no limit hold'em in 10 years, but there's likely going to be some variation of poker that's popular. Let's see here. Some other questions. Can you ask them what format do you think is more profitable? Regular, freeze out tournaments, or PSKO tournaments?
Yeah, 100% PSKO tournaments. Like 1,000% PSKO tournaments.
That's from Saka Corona. Makes sense too, right? There's probably more poker people have been solving or figuring out the no limit, the regular variation. So this is just something where if you don't know the math or you haven't done the work, you don't really know.
I see so many obvious mistakes, even in higher stakes, on like players I know, which are ripping the 8-7 suited from the cutoff for 20 bigs. And I see a lot of like very simple mistakes all the time. And as long as I see those simple mistakes, even in the very high stakes population, so those tournaments must have like an insane edge. I cannot even measure this compared to the non-KO.
Right. Nope. There you go. What was your first big tournament win?
Skip on that. But I can say, I don't know, compared to my bankroll, I would say my first bigger win was online Saturday Eliminator when it was the normal Saturday Eliminator. So this was 2014, I think, and I won it for like 13, 14K, something like this. So this was a very, very big bankroll boost.
Right. That kind of got you sparked and confident and moving and kept you in the game and feeling good.
Kept me in the game, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
It keeps, you got to have those lights on tournaments. Everyone can know their tournament. They kept the lights on and at least kept them in the industry. I think that's a good answer. Someone asking, should you go for big bounties with any 2 cards?
No. This is like a question. Probably the question back to the question guy who was asking which questions are the most confusing. The most confusing questions are actually questions which sound like poker but aren't actually poker related. I got one. This is like which pocket pair are you calling in the big blind? It sounds like poker, but you cannot answer this question. And for this question, I also cannot like really answer this. But because a big bounty must be always related to a chip stack, and if the guy has also a big chip stack, then you have to be tight, right? If the guy has 10 start bounties, let's say it's $1,000, and he has 1,000 starting stacks, then you are ending up calling the same range which you're calling in a non-KO case, usually.
Right. Okay. That perfect. This is a statement. I don't know if you'll agree with this or not. Let me just read the question and let you answer. You have a completely different style from Ben CB playing poker. Are you friends with him or just a colleague? Have you ever faced a decisive instance of a tournament? So I'm sure you and Ben have battled in some of these tournaments, but do you even agree with that? You have a completely different style from Ben playing poker?
Yes.
Okay. And how is that? How would you describe that between the two?
I mean, it's probably more on the nuances, and Ben is also like very deep in the theory. But like I already said, I think his adaptation to exploits against the right players or against random players, even if he has seen one hand, is like way harder than I would do it. So to give you an example, just a very simple example. In a spot where I know the player is tight, I have the information the player is tight, and I know in a game theoretical environment I probably should call, let's say, 50% of my range what is left. Then I wouldn't do like a very sick deviation and say I'm calling 5% or 0% because the player is tight. Okay, I'm not saying Ben is doing this as well, but Ben doing this, I think, to a way bigger margin than I'm doing it. I would say I'm calling 45% instead of 50%, and out of the information, I think Ben just realizes range is way better. He's way more successful than me, so he's just adapting way better his frequencies and probably is just folding the correct combinations way more often than I'm doing it. I saw this in a lot of final tables where he was making like sick folds, and those folds were like usually super perfect. Also on the other way around, just applying pressure in the right spots, even without having like cool blockers. Because he did understand the situation very well. So yeah, he's definitely playing way more exploitative than I am.
Absolutely. That's a great answer. Who is your favorite player between Hellmuth and Negreanu? Who is for you a better player? Let's do that. Who do you believe? It's interesting because those guys, I think in general, they're two of the greatest results. Hellmuth has the most bracelets ever. I mean, Negreanu, a lot of people's favorite players right there, or old school. You know, if you were to talk about white magic and kind of old school versus new school GTO, I know Hellmuth gets in a lot of funny arguments, like in some of these high rollers circuits with Sontheimer and some of the Germans, and obviously there's different people have their opinions and how his game's respected, GTO or not, but it's hard to argue with those guys' results. Who would you, if you, just based on what you know and probably what you hear on the circuit and whatnot, who do you think actually is a better player? Like if you were in say 100K high roller and you have to take Hellmuth or Negreanu, who would you select as the player that you think is a better selection in that format? Like I'm
playing against this player, or who's the better player in this 100K tournament?
Yeah, who's a better player? Who you got to buy a piece?
Definitely Negreanu is the better player in the 100K tournament.
Okay.
Because he's in my head still like the better live player overall, with a bit too high call down frequency, but he probably also changed that. I mean it's I'm honest, I'm not having too much in like the last 2 years on the high stakes tournaments and who is playing that besides of my my buddies, right? So I don't know. I think Helmut is a very good pick in the standard tournament because he really cares for his tournament life and plays like very solid poker,
Right.
picking up spots here and there, and obviously has to have some good live tells as well, which he is using. He is around for so long. This has to be the case, right?
Right.
But I think from all what I've seen in the media, I think Negreanu is a better live player, and then in live tournament, I'm picking the better live player, of course.
Okay, great answer. Who is? Let's see. Is it planned to translate the course in Russian?
No.
Okay. Do you prefer Party's bounty payout structure or Star's payout structure?
By payout structure, you mean that you have a little bit higher bounty on Party? I don't know.
I guess I don't know.
There's not a big difference, right?
I'm reading the question. I don't know how to interpret that.
So when it comes to like the size of the bounty, definitely I prefer the Party structure.
Okay. Best way to study bounty tournaments? Of course, raise your edge, but
probably have the right mindset first and accept that things will be very different. Like if I would introduce ICM today and ICM wouldn't exist, things will also be very different. And I tell you, oh, you have to fold aces here directly, right? So you have to accept that things will change. And when you did that, then simulation work is what you have to do using HRC.
Okay. Are you using coffee? Are you the coffee type to stay focused for long sessions? Are you pro coffee, anti coffee?
Never drinking coffee at the session. I'm actually drinking a lot of coffee at the early time of the day and until lunch. But afterwards, I don't drink coffee anymore.
Nice, it's good GTO. I like that. I got a little coffee. It's after lunch here, but I'm finishing a little one. It's my second. I try to keep it to 2 a day max. Why do you choose KOs as your main game?
Because I think they are the most profitable games at the moment, besides Short Deck and Omaha.
Beautiful. Do you play live?
Very rarely. Very rarely. Only once a year, usually.
Okay. And someone asked, how do you consider your performance of the 2019 WSOP up to here, and what do you think about playing in addition to the main event in the next day? So I don't know. This question is, I guess, I don't know if it's for me or who, but I don't know if you have.
Definitely, it's for you.
Okay.
You can answer this question.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I do want to give a shout out to Mariano 5 and the cash game course, because I have gone through the majority of that now. And I was mentioning to you before the stream, I was just in Vegas and kind of passed on a couple of the tournaments. Was going to play 2 of them during the weekend, and I ended up skipping those and playing cash, and had 2 of my better sessions in a long time. Winning, I had I was playing 200, 400 no limit, and had 2 very nice wins in those 2 sessions. So yeah, that was cool, and that was it was, again, you can't really say it's just because of that, right? But it was like nice to, I feel like doing some work specializing in cash recently and then having some great results. I definitely feel like it helps to brush up on the course. So shout out to Mariano 5 in the cash game course of Raise Your Edge. But we are today talking about the bounty course. So we'll keep that going. We're going to answer a few more. I know we're just over 2 hours here, so why don't we just, I don't think we can do all of them, or maybe we could rapid fire some like one-word answer stuff, and then we'll just do the giveaway. Final table deals, yes or no?
No.
What is your favorite place to play poker in Las Vegas? Casino.
Win. Definitely win.
Win, nice. Yeah, I was just at Encore. That's where the poker room is. It's very nice. Very, very good place there. What was your longest poker session so far, and how long was it?
I think it was a live session. I think it was around about 36 hours.
Oh, beast mode. Beast mode. If you're a Raise Your Edge instructor, you got to post at least a 24-hour one in the resume. So, did you win?
I was up in the cash game. Yeah, I just couldn't leave. Too many drunk people at the table.
Yeah,
so.
Sometimes you got to just hunker in. What is the best way to approach a bounty tournament? Early stage, mid stage, and late stage. I mean, it's kind of complex. Obviously, can't really sort of ask you to sum up everything. We got a sub right there.
Be loose at the early stage, be loose at the mid stage, and be tight at the late stage.
That's great advice. Honestly, I think that'll go a long way. And like I said, Ben one day kind of broke that down to me about a final table mistake in that respect. So that's great. How do you handle when you are in a cooler the last more than a few days? How do you handle basically when you're in running poorly? Like what? I guess not. How do you handle it? But if you're running really bad, is there anything?
It sounds so stupid, but just accept it. And it's sometimes very hard also for me to just accept it, that you just cannot change what you cannot change. And then I just take rest. I mean, I'm playing online like once a week, probably twice a week. So it's easy for me to get rest, and I don't have like this beats every day, and it drains me down, right? So for me, it's probably easier to just take a step back and say, okay, today was like shit, and next time is probably better, probably not. I cannot influence it, so I'm usually not hanging a long time after getting beats. But when I have a lot of beats in a session, at the end of the session, in a session I don't tilt, but at the end of the session, then I say, today was again very ugly,
Right?
Unnecessarily ugly.
Yep. And if so, Stars did away with HUDs. Would you be happy or mad? Which is basically what's happening, right? Party is getting rid of HUDs right now, and the next.
Yep, get rid of HUDs.
What do you think about that?
Definitely on the get rid of HUDs plane. I like it.
Nice. I'm really excited. Party Poker, Rob Young making a big move, big statement, taking a plunge here because being the first in the industry, basically, right? I guess there's some sites that have tried it or done it a bit, but like in terms of the major players, this is going to be really interesting to see how this shakes out. I'm for it. I think it's great, and yeah, I mean that's interesting to hear you say that as well. I guess you just think overall that's it's going to net be better for everyone, right? I mean, in terms of, like, it probably in theory it could even hurt you technically because you might
it's
be
more
able
fair.
to
It's just more fair. A lot of people don't have the sufficient hands to do something with the HUD. So players with a lot of hands, which are either playing a lot of the times, right, or get their hands otherwise, they are just having like a very, very big advantage over the players who don't have a HUD or have a HUD which is actually not working as intended. And taking this away feels to me like a fair move, and also of course it benefits me a little bit more playing more GDO style and don't look for like insane exploits on like 3-bet frequencies or raise fold gaps or whatever.
Interesting. I'm with you. I like it. All right, cool. That's good to hear. I think I'm in the same boat. So great question from, hey, it's Mark275, Mark Lapina. Will there be more updates soon? It would be nice if we get more practice videos. So I do see in the Raise Your Edge course there are updates. That's pretty cool. It's not just you guys don't just put out a course and then say good luck the rest of your life. I have seen a bunch of updates and add-ins. Is there any other stuff with the bounty stuff? I saw there was a couple recent updates, but
yeah. I'm just yesterday I did just finish the multi-way part, so this is coming, and yeah, some more stuff. I have a list which I have to work through. So there's some more stuff coming. So not only the multi-way stuff, but also like a little bit more in-depth ICM chip approximation I wanted to do. So where you actually can handle even the final table spots a little bit better with the bounty approximation. So the puns are not made so often anymore. And yeah, the dream is to get a little bit more preflop solve ranges somehow, but that's not so easy.
Okay, that's huge. I mean, it's great when there's updates and whatnot. So that's you guys got to keep an eye on that when you get the course. You can go back and it makes it very clear when there is an update, right? It does show. It says when it was updated, what date.
I'm always posting in the Discord channel first of all if there are updates, and we did do like the whole communication procedure I think a little bit different now with like sending emails and stuff, but I'm not into this, right? So I'm the content guy, right? So don't ask me like those technical questions. I don't know.
For sure. How much should your all-in call range adjust in PKO versus typical MTT?
Let me give you a very simple example. A 20 big blind player is jamming out of the small blind. He has one start bounty and round about 60% of a starting stack left. So let's say he has 3K chips. Okay, he's jamming. Blinds are 150, 75, and 18 or 19, depending on how big the antes are. Right. In a non-KO tournament, you're calling round about 15%. In a PKO tournament, you're calling round about 60%, assuming that the player is jamming what he should jam from a pre-flop solve perspective. If he's jamming everything which he can jam, including top range, then you're calling in a PKO like 50% and in a non-KO like 12%. So the margin is like insanely big at the very start of the tournament.
Wow, interesting. I saw. Oh, this is very interesting. I just had. Well, first of all, someone asked, "What is the opinion on spins?" So the spins on Party Poker, a lot of fun. I enjoy playing them. What are your thoughts on that? And before, there's someone asking if it's profitable, but I want to take it a step further. What do you think about? What if they added spins KO version? I mean, I guess
they have spins KO versions, no?
Do they?
Don't they have like the superhero spins where you are paying XY amount of dollars and then you have a regular price pool and a bounty price pool and the bounty is going to one head only? I think this like three-handed. I don't know if it's a spin, but I think this is a three-handed sit and go format which is already existing.
Oh, maybe somewhere. All I know is Party Poker, and that's I bleed Party, so I'm not sure. But the three, I haven't seen spins with knockouts, but I guess it's kind of weird, right? Because it would be there's only three people, right? So you either knock out one or two, right? That would be, or you.
Yeah, but only one has the bounty on his head. So there's a very interesting, funny dynamic in those three-handed spins. I did play those usual normal spins. I just don't enjoy because I think this is like a lottery rip-off format.
Right.
You have to put like insane amount of volume in to make this very profitable game.
Yeah, or you just want to have fun once in a while and
you can have always fun, but then I play games which have the higher EV. So I'm playing Omaha, for example. In Omaha, you can also have fun, right?
True.
And you're not getting ripped a huge amount of the prize pool on average when you're playing the spin and go.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely interesting how that all works. All right, well let me just maybe take one more here. There are a bunch of questions, guys. I really do appreciate it. Someone asked, how old are you? I don't know if you want to answer that.
Over 30, under 40.
Someone asked, how much is the bounty course? So we do have a $200 discount with the code FLOWBOUNTY, but what the total is, I don't even know the exact amount right now. Because I think, do you know the...
I also don't know. We are changing this here and there. I actually don't know. I think it was 150. At times, or 150, 1050, and now with the discount it's like 850 or 900. I don't know, but you can check this out on the Raise Your Edge website. There it's clearly stated.
Yeah, I'm gonna tag them on that. It's a good question because it does fluctuate a bit, and it does depend at times, and with the code, obviously discounts going on and whatnot. So yeah, that you guys can always check that out. It'll tell you right there. Gonna get that. What is the biggest pot in poker? Biggest pot? I don't know if he means cash or take that for whatever it is. Tournament win. I don't know. Like, what's your biggest? And yeah, what do you think? I don't know if you can answer that. I don't even know how biggest. I'm not sure what that means. Biggest pot in poker maybe means the biggest purse. I don't know. You could maybe either the biggest tournament win or live cash pot that you've played. I don't know, something like that. If you don't.
Yeah, I'm not gonna answer this.
Okay. There you go, guys. Hey, gotta have a little privacy, guys. You can ask. Doesn't mean we have to tell. How long have you played poker? And then let's go and do the giveaway.
Technically, very ambitious. I'm playing poker since 2015. So now for 4 years, and playing poker since 2004. So 15 years, right?
Okay. All right. Well, listen. I know you got your family at home. I have my boy. I think is getting ready to wake up as well. Let's do a giveaway. $20. We got We have the giveaway as well on, what is it? We have a 2 gym bag Raise Your Edge giveaway. I'll do this tweet with you and then I'll let you run and I'll do the last part of those giveaways. I know you got to get going here. So let's copy. Why don't you tell me when? I'm going to pick a random tweet here. Someone's going to win $20. You know what? Actually, we'll do that. We'll do it that way. We'll pick it right now. So you tell me when to draw. Someone's going to win 20 and then we'll go ahead and do the last bit on our own and let you get off and get to your family. So tell me when. Someone's going to win $20 courtesy of us, of you, of Raise Your Edge, of all of it. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Tell me when to put it in.
All right, put it in.
Put it in has been called. Loading up. 20 spot coming, and Loso Poker going to be the beneficiary of a $20 giveaway. Congrats to you. Yeah, so that's it, man. I appreciate your time. I will do a little bit of a giveaway here. You don't need to be on for the Raise Your Edge bag giveaway, I can do that, let you go. So again, I thank you so much. This was very beneficial. I hope everyone at home enjoyed it. And Nico, hopefully we can do this again. Maybe next time we do a review, it'd be fun to actually just maybe plow through a actual tournament and maybe just review some key hands. I know there's some stuff you wanted to go over as well that we didn't get to due to a Windows update kind of discourse us. But like I said, we have over 2 hours, lot to talk about, and always stuff that we can there's always stuff that we can do with this type of work. So it's whenever you're available, I'd love to do it again.
Yeah, me too. I always enjoy hand reviews, so I'm very open for this. Let's do this.
Sweet, man. Well, listen, thanks again. We'll talk soon, and I will keep you updated on any bounty scores and runs, and of course Discord as well, right? People can ask, those that are members of Raise Your Edge, if you are in the Discord, which we can put in below, you guys can drop in there and ask questions, and it's a really nice community and a lot of sharing and updates on there as well in the Discord chat for Raise Your Edge, so check that out as well. Any other places you would recommend? I mean, there's YouTube videos, you got YouTube, there's a website, Raise Your Edge, there's also Discord. Those are the best places to go.
Definitely the best places, and yeah, just join the Discord. Not only me, right? There are a lot of coaches which are doing the work, and we are always open to discuss hands and other stuff. So just join the Discord. I think it's very beneficial for everyone.
Okay, beautiful. Well, that's it. We're gonna do the Nightbot. We're gonna do the giveaways, and I will let you run, and then we'll talk soon.
Let me run. Then yeah, thank you very much for the invitation, and have a great day. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Thanks, Nico. All right, guys, Nico from Raise Your Edge, dropping knowledge. We really appreciate the time. He does have a newborn as well, relatively newborn, so we're going to let him run. We're going to close this down. I do want to say a big thank you to Raise Your Edge and the cash game stuff, which has been really, really good. We did have a video up on that as well. Be positive. We'll see you soon. We'll be streaming, and yeah, have a great day.